Welcome to Who's Right, What's Left. I'm your co-host, Melissa Reinhart.
And I'm Matt Neubauer. We're here to discuss some of the important issues that face Americans today and have some civil discourse and banter between friends and parties.
Who's right?
What's left?
All right, everyone. This is our first broadcast. I'm Melissa Reinhart.
I'm Matt Neubauer.
And we're going to find out more about Matt Neubauer, my friend today. And we're gonna start off with a heavy question. Why are you a Republican?
Well, I gravitate more towards the Republican Party's small government theory. You know, I think the government should be there to lay out infrastructure, take care of basic needs, military, schools, things like that. Less government is good government, in my opinion. So I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to that sort of thing, and I think that party reflects that well.
Where do you stand on various social issues?
I tend to sway. It's very specific depending on the issue. And a lot of times I'm party line.
Right, can I pick one?
Sure, go ahead.
How about homelessness?
I think that's a shame. I really do. It's unfortunate, and I think that there's a place for government to take care of that. Within reason. I would also, though, like to see local churches, businesses, things like that step up. As we've seen in Fort Wayne, the more infrastructure you build for that, the larger the problem becomes. If people realize you've got resources and then you're just adding to it, you will never have a no vacancy homeless shelter. I mean, you could build it 1,000 stories high.
In a perfect world.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's obviously, I think we agree that's...
Of course, we agree on that. And that draws from your background in social work.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
Your undergraduate degree is in social work.
Yes.
So, which is probably where we find our common ground, quite frankly.
Absolutely.
So what inspired you to become a police officer and now a detective?
Initially, probably movies from the 80s and 90s, like Colors and Lethal Weapon and things like that were cool growing up as a kid. But I started out as an art student. I was a commercial photographer.
Really?
And yes.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. I was in commercial photography. And then, and that took skill back in the day. I mean, you had dark room. We finished our own film. We did processing, things like that. And then the digital age came in. And I'm talking the digital age early when 4 megapixels and 6 megapixels was a big deal. And then 8 and, now, and we slowly saw you had to either transition or get out. And
you didn't like that?
Well, I loved it. I was excited for the art. I was excited for the industry, but I also noticed big companies that would come to us like, hey, we need this product shot for, like, we would do things like the HWI flyer every week. We would take pictures of, shovels and what was on sale and whatever. And next thing you know, Becky from marketing's got a camera, so she can do this. I mean, why pay us a living wage to do it when somebody can just snap that with a digital camera? Same thing with wedding photography, which I absolutely hated, but
you did this for a while then.
Yeah, oh yeah, everybody did that.
How long did you do this for?
For a couple of years, 2-3 years.
Wow.
Well, not a long time, but.
So can you take my next set of headshots?
Absolutely.
Well, good to know.
But as that stuff went out, I saw myself kind of assessing what can you do for a living. I mean, I was newly married, I had kids in the way, and I sat down with my dad, and he said, we were kind of casually watching TV, and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I don't remember what the incident was, but the FBI was kicking in somebody's door, and it was on the news. I mean, it was a live stream. It was something going on. I'm like, you know what? I want to do that. I think that would be cool. And so he encouraged me to. He said, you absolutely do not get a criminal justice degree, because that if you don't get hired by a department, then that's 3-4 years wasted.
Well, but you can do a lot with that degree.
You could do more with a social work degree, though.
Very true.
I mean, that's a lot more flexible, and that's kind of how I got into social work.
Okay. Fascinating. So then segue into politics. How did you get interested in politics? Being a city councilman for New Haven.
Yes. Well, that came from working for government for the last 30 years. First Allen County, then Fort Wayne. in that you realize, for example, New Haven, our town of New Haven has 16,000 people in it. Do you want to be one of 16,000, or do you want to be one of 7, 8, or 9? Whatever your board is, or your So yeah, I wanted to have a bigger voice in what was going on there, and maybe eventually, the State House. Give me a little
really?
practice for governor, and then who knows? Who knows where that'll go?
I'm not sure the listeners could see that wink you just gave me there. Governor, that's the first I've heard of that. Even the State House.
Why not?
Okay. So, that's actually, okay. What's something that listeners would find that would surprise them about you? Like, I've already been surprised. I didn't know you were a photographer.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if
amazing.
listeners would be surprised, but I think most of my friends who know me now, know me for 20 years or so, wouldn't know that I started out as an artist.
Well, they're going to know now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that it's a big surprise for a lot of folks.
Matt, the artist.
Right.
Why do you want to do this podcast?
I think it's a good, everybody says, I heard somebody ridiculously comment the other day that this is the most divided America's ever been, forgetting that maybe we had a civil war. It was fought with soldiers and things like that. And
I've been hearing a lot of that.
Thousands of people died. Too. Yeah. This is not quite that big. Now we're texting mean tweets to each other states away. So I wouldn't necessarily compare the two, but it is getting pretty ugly out there, and it's just silly. It really is. We disagree on so many different things, but look how
we really do.
Yeah, look how good of friends we are.
We are.
And I just think it's ridiculous, and we're never going to get anything done. And I do partially, and you'll call this my tin hat theory, but I blame the media for that. The media, especially if you can garner some passion about something and really piss people off, that keeps them coming, commercial after commercial. Because now they're invested, and I think they realized how much money that makes. They don't really care that the country's going to hell, and people are wanting to fist fight in the alley over silly stuff. I think this is a good example of the country of how people can interact and behave,
and how we used to interact before it became so polarized.
Absolutely, because now people tend to avoid. Oh, we want to avoid tough topics. We don't want to talk about tough topics.
Right.
But we're not teaching our kids how do we learn to communicate about tough topics. How do we get our point across without getting emotional or triggered or angry?
It's a cultural taboo.
Mm-hmm.
I know. We were raised, we could talk about politics in our immediate family home, but if we went to extended family for the holidays, and I realized I'm interviewing you and here I am talking, but it was just, you cannot talk about politics. And mostly because our family sits on the other side of the aisle from the rest of our very large extended family. But it was, I remember getting the looks from my mom. Don't you dare go there, Melissa.
Right. Right.
So anyway, I think we lost a lot with that transition from being okay and not as divisive to now it's, like you said, it's really ugly. Or it can be really ugly for people. Thankfully, that's not what it is with us.
Right.
Okay, so what's a skill or hobby you've always wanted to learn but haven't yet?
I've dabbled with it. I still really want to get into welding a little bit. I think welding and some metal sculpture, metal art would be very cool. And I've done a little bit of it through Anthus. Great program they've got for adults out there, but I'm not even come close to where I could call myself a fabricator.
That's that artistic vein.
Absolutely.
You've got.
Yes, for sure.
Wow, that's fascinating. What's your favorite way to unwind or relax after a crazy busy day?
So I consider every busy day crazy, and because we've I don't like to bring a lot of work home, especially as a police officer. I know that can be extremely toxic. You do nothing but talk to other cops every day, which is wonderful. I love those guys, love them, but it's a very narrow scope. You know what I mean? We tend to all think alike. Not all, but a lot of us think alike. We talk alike. We have the same, So I like to stop at our local cigar lounge, Rudy's, down in Brackenridge, right across
Shout out
from
to
Parkview Field.
Rudy's.
Shout out to Rudy. Love that place. So they've got that wine garden and stuff in back, but
Mm-hmm.
they've also got a club upstairs. I just like to have a cigar, a little bit of scotch, and just because a cigar takes a good hour and 15 minutes. Talk to people who aren't cops, and just unwind and relax. I know that's an hour. I know it's it's going to take me an hour to smoke that. Relax, talk to some guys, watch some soccer, do whatever, and then I'm not bringing any of those issues home. I don't like to come home and bring work problems or frustrations to the house, and that is my hour of mental checkout.
No, that's great. And I can attest to the fact that you did go to Rudy's today, because I can smell it on you.
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
So if you could have any superpower,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be and why?
You know, as a teen, hands down, it would have been invisibility for obvious reasons. But I think now, as an adult, now that I'm matured, I would really think it would be cool if you could speak every language. Like if you could just talk to somebody from
that would be
around the
amazing.
world and have them understand you and you understand them back. And because I do love to travel, and just learning your way around in different languages and cultures is really, really difficult. And I think that would be just amazing.
Which is why I became a cultural anthropologist.
Yes.
Just
yeah.
saying. What's the most ridiculous fact you know?
Our neighbors to the north of Michigan have more lighthouses than any other U.S. state.
Really? Even like New England?
New England, West Coast, Alaska,
Wow.
about 115 of them. Yeah, crazy.
Have you visited a lot of them?
No,
Or?
no. But
Wow, that's
it's
fascinating.
just a crazy fact. Yep.
That is a crazy fact. What's the most unusual food you've ever tried?
I don't.
Anything
man.
that was still moving?
Nothing that was still moving. I finally tried ceviche after I was convinced the lime juice would kill everything. Escargot is pretty good. That's I don't know if that's unusual, but it's certainly.
It's not common.
It took a minute. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love. I've had a lot of nasty stuff in my mouth over the years. From snails to oysters to...
I don't know what to do with that comment.
Right. No. Wait, you can bleep that out.
Yeah.
No, but I will though. I love adventurous eating. Absolutely love
You're
it.
a foodie.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much I wouldn't try. If you convince me, like, millions of people on the other side of the planet eat this on the daily, I will absolutely try it.
So, who will need to be bleeped out first from this podcast?
Oh, for shit's sakes. You know it's going to be me. You know it's going to be me.
But that's my line, what you just said. So I think I know the answer to this, but listeners may not. Where's your favorite vacation destination and why?
I like New Orleans.
I knew it.
A lot. Yes, you did. That city has got something special that just, and I don't go out to the suburbs of the city or anything, but like the French Quarter for me has just got a gritty, really basic feel to it. I mean, it's just about food and music. Those are my two favorite things. And it's not a tourist area like Nashville. It's the.
So if you were leaving tomorrow for New Orleans, what's your day one itinerary? You've been there enough, so you probably have your routine down.
Yeah.
So what would day one look like with Neubauer?
Good night's sleep the night before. I love waking up at the crack of dawn when the businesses are hosing off the sidewalks. Everybody's opening up. I walk my way down in front of Jackson Square, stop at Cafe Du Monde, get the biggest coffee they'll sell me, and then walk back up Decatur Street to the New Orleans Cigar Company, where they're rolling the stuff right there in the window. Plop down on one of the picnic tables out front, get a fresh cigar, drink my coffee, watch people wake up, go to work.
Any beignets? from Cafe Du Monde?
Sometimes.
Oh, man.
Sometimes. That's a cop thing. Powdered sugar in your shirt. I mean, it's. I don't like to perpetuate that stereotype.
But they don't know that's your
They don't
profession
know,
down
but
there.
it's still.
Although I think you kind of walk with a certain gait that tips
I'm
people
sure.
off.
Between that and the haircut, they
a
just
little chip
know.
on your shoulder.
They just
The haircut, you think?
Oh, the hair. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, this is long now.
Oh my.
Yeah, that bald fade will get it every time.
Oh, jeez. All right. So I may have noticed in our intro that comes before every podcast, you, what we call in the linguistic world, you had some fun intonational contouring where you were talking about me being a lifelong Democrat and firm supporter of social equity, and your voice just kind of went social equity. And we're going to play that here for listeners. We'll pause, play,
All right.
and then I'm going to ask you a question about that.
Melissa Reinhart, a lifelong Democrat focused on social equity.
All right. Yes, it did go up.
And
You
why
did sense
is that,
correctly.
Detective?
Because you and I both know. I think my assumption after talking to you is you. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Here's what I see from it. Social equity to me, I love the theory of it. I don't love the idea that the government should be responsible for making all folks equal. Our founding fathers specifically said the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of it. They didn't guarantee happiness. They didn't guarantee we'd all be equal. They didn't guarantee that everybody would have the same, the level of income, house, whatever. I'm a capitalist. I love the capitalism. And that's sometimes when folks say social equity, I think they expect the government to have so many resources for folks so that we're all, taken care of. Well, none of that's free. Folks say, well, food's a human right. Well, I'd like to feed everybody. I would, but you can't. Who are we forcing into labor to do that? The farmer, he's got to get paid. He's got expenses. Everybody, the grocery store's got expenses. Everybody down that food chain has expenses. So, that's where I kind of disagree on government's role in that.
Well, and I don't feel like the government's job is to make everyone equal, but I do believe in more equitable access to food and resources, which doesn't exist for all groups. It just doesn't. And you know that as a police officer.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, at the end of the day, everybody does need to be fed. I'm not saying that
And
at
a roof
all.
over their heads,
Yes.
preferably clothing,
But it's not up to the government to provide that.
Okay, we will tackle that
Okay.
subject for another day. I want to share with listeners, I think one of my most touching memories in the, 4 years we've known each other is when I lost the election last November for my city council run. Detective, which is what I always call him, you were the first person to call me the next day. You were the first person to call me and tell me how proud you were of me for how hard I ran and how impressive my numbers were. It's given me goosebumps just sharing this. I don't think I've ever shared this with
No,
you.
I
Yeah, it really touched me. So as annoying as I can find you sometimes, I think about that day after and you being that first phone call. So it meant a lot. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Well, listeners, I hope you've learned a little bit more about Matt Neubauer, Detective. It's been fun getting to know some new things about you.
Yeah. Thank you.
The opinions and views expressed on Who's Right, What's Left are Matt and Melissa's solely. They are not necessarily the views of the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or either of the participants' employers. We'd like to thank our production team at Influencer.tv. For more information on how to start your own podcast, check them out at Influencer.tv.
And don't forget, you can like us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can listen and leave your 5-star review and share on both Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
These are important, critical conversations we all need to have with each other for the future of our country. Remember to be polite, make it fun, and we can all agree to disagree.